It's a normal day for the local high school's substitute teacher, Jefferson Reed. Instead of teaching his students to stand up against their bullies, Jeff urges them to run away, hide, and even eat their lunches quickly. On their way home with his family, they come across some members of the dreaded gang in their city, the Golden Lords, who are currently terrorizing a citizen. Jeff insists on avoiding them, but his father, Ted, decides to face the gang. Ted has a firm belief that gangs only take over the town because people let them. Ted pisses off the gang members when he interferes, and one of them is about to attack him, but a police car arrives. Jeff's beliefs are so different from that of his father, he refuses to stand up for himself. But all of that is going to change one night. After discovering that the gang robbed his car, Jeff hears a woman struggling in a nearby alley. He goes to check and finds that two of his students are members of the Golden Lords who are undergoing their initiation. When Jeff confronts them, more gang members emerge from the shadows, including their leader named Simon, who has them chase after Jeff. In fear, Jeff runs for his life and hides inside a dumpster. Squirrel, one of his students, finds him but decides not to rat him out. The Golden Lords then leave to look for him elsewhere. For hours, Jeff has waited to make sure the gang is already gone. As soon as he emerges from the dumpster, a meteorite blazing in a green fire plummets toward him. Jeff tries to run, but the meteorite catches up on him, pinning him onto a wall before melting into his body, leaving severe burn marks on his skin. A man witnesses the incident, and before he calls the ambulance for Jeff, he picks up a piece of the meteorite on the ground. Jeff is rushed to the hospital where he is immediately treated by doctors who cannot believe what they see when a small meteorite sinks into his arm. They continue examining their bizarre findings on his lab results until the next day. All the medical staff proceed to Jeff's room, and when his bandages get removed, they discover that all of his wounds have miraculously healed, much to their surprise. Dr. Jones, the head specialist, deduces it had something to do with a medical theory where his burns immediately heal due to an adverse reaction. Jeff accidentally touches the book Dr. Jones is holding, allowing him to instantly memorize all of its contents. He disagrees with Dr. Jones and proceeds to explain the theory with incredible detail, including its page and part in the book. But when Dr. Jones asks him to explain further, he suddenly loses his acquired knowledge. Later that night, Jeff notices some changes in himself, almost like superpowers. He can see through the walls and clothes of other people. Jeff recovers in no time and is released from the hospital the next day. When Jeff arrives home, he discovers another peculiar thing that he can do: understand what Ellington, his dog, says. His friend, Michael, arrives moments later, and he tries to tell him how he can talk to Ellington. He also tells him that he can memorize everything in a book when he touches it, but it only lasts for about 30 seconds. To convince Michael, he touches a book he has never read before and proceeds to answer Michael's questions about the book correctly. He then shows Michael a news column about himself getting hit by a meteor, which he suspects is where his superpowers came from. Meanwhile, the man who grabbed the chunk of meteorite the night Jeff was attacked touches the meteorite, allowing him to watch TV from his neighbors and even make coffee for himself. Jeff's superpowers begin to unravel when his father is attacked by the Golden Lords who came back for Ted after he got discharged from the hospital. The Golden Lords confront Ted, but Jeff stops them and takes them down with ease. He displays superhuman strength when he manages to throw them away and even stop the thug's speeding car. The whole neighborhood has witnessed what happened and praises him for fending off the thugs. He explains to his family his condition and asks them not to tell anyone about it. The next morning, as Jeff walks to school, the Golden Lords, led by a man named Goldilocks, drive by and start shooting him with a barrage of bullets. Jeff falls to the ground and the gang celebrates for having him killed. However, Jeff stands up seconds later, unscathed. They go after him, but he manages to evade them by leaping into the pole. The thugs are horrified to see his superpowers and they decide to head back to their headquarters. After the thugs leave, Jeff finds himself at the mercy of a man who accused him of peeking at his wife. Jeff panics and the pole's bolt loosens until it breaks. He falls to the ground. The impact shatters the glass from the neighboring apartments and causes an earthquake that splits the road in half. Jeff returns home, and his father tells him how they think Jeff can help their community with his superpowers. Despite Jeff's disapproval, his father and mother insist on using his powers to protect the neighborhood as their superhero called Meteor Man. The next morning, in their community meeting, Jeff is officially declared as the neighborhood superhero, whose duty is to patrol 3 times a week and have a phone at home ready for people in need of his help. Jeff strongly objects to the idea, but it changes when an old woman close to his heart is attacked one night. He vows not to let anything like that happen ever again. Donning his costume created for him by his mother, Jeff patrols the town as the beloved hero Meteor Man. He starts fighting off crimes, maintaining peace between the police and the criminals, and even planting gigantic crops on a field for the whole community. However, all of Jeff's recent feats trigger the anger of the leader of Simon's syndicate, Mr. Byers, who places a large bounty on Meteor Man's head, dead or alive. While doing paperwork inside his classroom, Jeff is confronted by the Golden Lords. Simon refers to him as Meteor Man, but Jeff says they must have been mistaken. Thankfully, Michael arrives and convinces them that Meteor Man is out there fighting crimes, having heard about it on the radio. Goldilocks insists Jeff is Meteor Man, but Simon believes Michael, so he orders his men to leave. Later that night, someone sneaks into Jeff's room while he's sleeping and steals his costume. He wakes up the next morning to Ellington telling him about it. He initially thinks it was the Golden Lords, but he recognizes Michael's voice on the radio, introducing himself as Meteor Man. Jeff immediately heads out. Meanwhile, the Golden Lords hear the broadcast, and they arm up to finish off Meteor Man. Jeff arrives at the mall just as the Golden Lords search the area for Meteor Man. He sees Michael on the podium addressing the people. The Golden Lords slowly approach Michael, who soon notices their presence. Michael tries to evade them, but they are everywhere. Jeff uses his laser vision to destroy some of the guns. However, he is left with no choice but to use his levitating powers to get Michael to safety. Unbeknownst to him, Simon spots him controlling Michael. The community then set up a celebration for Jeff to show their appreciation and ask him to patrol the nearby cities. Suddenly, they hear gunshots coming from outside, where Jeff finds his mother in Simon's hands. Simon tells him he's there to deliver a message and then opens fire, but Jeff catches every bullet, saving everyone. As soon as Simon and the Golden Lords leave, Jeff notices blood on his hands. That's when he realizes that he's slowly losing his powers, which he tells Michael the next day when the latter visits him to apologize. While Jeff sleeps to regain his energy, Mr. Byers raids his house and Ellington manages to hide him. His parents insist on him taking a break for a while and leave the city, but Jeff refuses. He then goes out with Michael and discovers that the entire neighborhood has been attacked by Golden Lords. Meanwhile, the community has decided to vote for Jeff's eviction now that they see him as the reason for the adversity brought by the Golden Lords. Unbeknownst to them, Jeff is among the crowd and volunteers to leave. He tells them they cannot stop the gang if the community continues to act like they don't see them. Before leaving, he emphasizes that they always complain but do nothing. Jeff immediately packs his bag, but the Golden Lords manage to track him down. They set up a barricade around Jeff's apartment and Simon calls out his name. Jeff decides to face him and engages him in a fistfight. The man with the meteorite hears the commotion outside and goes out with his dogs and the meteorite. Without his superpowers, Jeff fails to fight back as Simon brutally beats him. When Simon finally has enough, he points his gun at Jeff and prepares to finish him. However, the entire neighborhood helps Jeff. Even the 2 young thugs turn their back on Simon. Enraged, Simon orders his men to kill them, but the man uses the meteorite to disarm the thugs before ordering his dogs to attack just as people start coming out of their houses to fight. Amidst the mayhem, a rock knocks the meteorite off the man's hand and it rolls near Simon and Jeff. They rush to get it and both manage to acquire superpowers. An intense one-against-many fight ensues with Simon taking the upper hand. He throws Jeff through a bus full of books. Jeff accidentally touches a martial arts book, allowing him to learn insane martial arts skills. However, he loses his powers after 30 seconds. He immediately touches another book, but wrongly touches a runway fashion book, which he throws at Simon. Simon catches the book, and both of them start to behave silly. The fight continues after 30 seconds, with Simon still in the advantage. He knocks Jeff down and is about to hurl a dumpster onto him when Ellington appears. Simon throws the dumpster at Ellington, breaking his ribs. He then picks up Jeff and throws him over the roof. Simon declares himself the winner, but his celebration is short-lived when Jeff appears in his costume as Meteor Man. He makes quick work of Simon, tying him against his thugs before absorbing the remaining Meteorite powers. The rest of the Golden Lords then flee, while Meteor Man ties the Baby Lords using their pans. He approaches Ellington, but he cannot heal him as his powers begin to deteriorate. The man then uses his remaining powers to save Ellington, much to everyone's delight. However, Mr. Byers suddenly arrives with his army of thugs, threatening to kill everyone. When the local gang arrives to aid Meteor Man, after he helped them to make peace with the police. Outnumbered, Mr. Byers immediately orders his men to retreat, but the police arrive to arrest them. Jeff watches in content as he finally achieves peace in the neighborhood, leaving a smile on his face. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and click here for another movie recap video.